Welcome to Every Church, a Peace Church, a program that promotes the belief that the church could turn the world towards peace if the church lived and taught as Jesus lived and taught. My name is Don Edwards. I'm the host and producer of this program, and I'd like to welcome you back to another exciting episode where we talk about issues of faith, peace, justice, and today we're going to talk a little about psychology. Yes, we're going to look inward. We're going to examine the psyche, examine our soul. Who am I? Why am I? Why are we? What are we? Whose are we? These are issues that can be explored not only spiritually, but also from a psychological perspective. And our guest today is a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, Dr. Alan C. Carter of Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Dr. Carter.
Thank you, Don.
To Every Church, a Peace Church.
Thank you.
By way of introduction, Dr. Carter is a graduate of Morehouse College, where he is presently an adjunct professor of psychology. He has received his PhD in clinical psychology from Columbia University in New York, and is in private practice with his wife, Juanita Carter, as a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist. Dr. Carter has written a book, a very interesting and exciting book, particularly one that's written by a scientist, the psychology. It's a book called What Is This Thing Called I? And I have gotten almost through the end of it, Dr. Carter, and I am enjoying it.
Thank you.
It takes me to a higher level of understanding about who I am and who you are and who we are, both as individuals and in the larger society, and particularly where it talks about what is the core of I, that the love, the spiritual love that is embedded in us, that is understandable yet not understandable. So I want to talk with you a little bit about your book, how you got to the book, and as we explore some of the chapters, its relationship to peace, peacemaking, how we can become better lovers of humanity and of life. And we're going to explore all of that in the next 25 minutes. The meaning of life, right?
Oh, yeah, 20 seconds.
20 seconds,
yeah,
okay,
right.
well, give it a go.
All right.
Tell me, doctor, what led you to write this book? What is this thing called I?
Well, I mean, it's the second most important word in any language. I mean, I don't know what you studied, what foreign language you studied when you were at Morehouse or whatever. You know, I had German, and I don't know if you had
French.
French. Oh,
yeah.
Je suis, right, or something like that.
I am. That's about all I know.
No, French, I mean, German is it's been. Yeah, that's about it. I can remember. But anyway, the thing is, you conjugate the verb to be, and be means to exist. All right. Now, what do I know that exists? Well, I exist. I mean, that's unquestionable. That's unchallengeable. There has to be an existence, and existence that I know that exists, I would call I. Now, the way I got into this, Don, was that I'm from Alabama originally, and I think of me as a human being and so forth. I'm from Alabama, went to school in Morehouse here in Atlanta, so forth, was involved in the civil rights movement, got involved in the Black Power movement and so forth, taught black psychology in the early 70s and stuff like that. Moved to San Francisco out there and lived out there for a while. Came back here to Atlanta, and what I noticed, because I went out there to San Francisco to join the brothers out there, the black psychologists and stuff, saw something out there called, well, they didn't quite, something called, yes, we can talk about Afrocentric stuff, all right? But there's something that seems to be universally so about man, okay, humankind. You know, you can read stories in the Bible, David, 3,000, however many years ago, and you can relate to it. How come? A man from a different time and a different culture, and you can relate to it, okay? Then I joined a church here and was a member of a church here in Atlanta, and I heard the pastor kept saying something called, unless you accept Jesus as your Savior, you were going to go to hell. And I said, now, wait a minute. I got 2 sons. And I don't care if my sons did something that Jeffrey Dahmer did, that Jeffrey Dahmer would call, disgraceful. I wouldn't, leave my sons and say, you can never see me. I said, what kind of God is this? So I began to ask some questions. And that, what I think is most important, is the willingness to ask questions. To question every belief you have is essential. Because the mind is just a belief machine. All it does is chunk out beliefs. Belief, I believe this, I believe that. Beliefs that are conscious, and like Freud and other people have said, unconscious belief. And they govern my belief because the mind's actions, everything comes out of something called beliefs. And my belief is based on something called I am. Now, what am I? Well, I think I'm a black man in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, that's too small, man. All right? I get caught up in blackness. And I can only see the world from a black point of view. Or if I'm a Christian, I can only see the world from a Christian point of view. So it's something there that I got to go beyond the labels, beyond the categories. It's like when Moses supposedly encountered the burning bush. And Moses asked the bush, identify yourself, the bush representing God. And God said, I am that I am. Boom, that's it, man. There's no more absolute truth than that. Okay? I exist, and I exist. Now, Jesus said, and I think Jesus was a man who definitely knew what was truth. Okay?
Yeah, he was well connected.
Yeah, he had a pretty good boss. Okay? Anyway, he said, of myself, I can do nothing. But then he makes another statement, supposedly he makes another statement and says, I and the Father are one. There goes that word I. Okay, now what is all of that about? You have to look and see what I is. I know that's not grammatically correct, but I mean that just like it sounds. For instance, I taught for 7 years at Morehouse a course called Theories of Personality. Okay?
You still teach it, don't you?
Yeah, I teach a course now that I created called Psychology and Spirituality, out of which this book came. But for 7 years, I taught a course called Theories of Personality, basic course for most psychology majors. Personality. Most people don't know that the word personality means mask. And a mask hides something. So what is it hiding? That which I think I am, notice I said think. That which I think I am, and I think I exist. Old Descartes says something like that. That hides what I really am. Okay? And that, to me, is the big issue in life. Now, traditional psychology, I got a PhD from Columbia, supposed to be one of the better schools in the nation. Okay? It taught me psychology. But do you know what the word psychology literally means? Most people don't. Most psychologists don't even know, Don.
I do now.
I know, right? You read it. Hey, all right. You can have the book free, all right? Anyway, it literally means, ology, of course, means study of. Psyche, most people think it means mind. It means soul.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And if you look in Webster, one of the definitions for soul is essence. What is this essence that I call I? And if it's the personality, that's a mask. So I got to go beyond my personality. What is that? Well, that's where I think Jesus went to. When he had to go there, if he said I, was he referring to Jesus, just a Jew from Galilee? Or was he saying something that was beyond that? An identity beyond that? Because the subject of all our activities is this awareness that I am. So you got to go to what I am, and the mind doesn't want you to go there.
Why doesn't the mind want you to go?
Good question.
Go into who you are?
Because
essentially, the essence.
The mind is identified primarily with fear. Now, most of us are afraid of death. Okay, it's like, it's like that's old Darwin said, I got a survival mechanism built in. Okay, you come at me with a knife, I automatically defend myself, all right? So there's something called, if I got a thing called survival, the opposite of that is a fear of death. I'm going to protect myself, okay? Because I think I'm this body, and this body is vulnerable, okay? There is within me something that I don't want to see. In traditional Christian theology, there is this belief in original sin, Genesis, okay? First 3 chapters, I think.
Run out the garden.
Yeah, in the garden. We were in the garden, and then we blew it. Okay, we didn't follow God because we ate of this, and it's significant, of this tree of knowledge of good and evil. the knowledge of something called a this and a that. All right? When man begins to say that there's something called this, me over here, and a that over there called Don, I'm no longer in the garden. Okay? I don't see oneness. I now see two. Okay? And I have the fear within me that if I discover that you and I are one, then the mind wouldn't exist. Okay? See, that's what lovemaking is about. To love or peacemaking. It's about realizing that there are no differences between us. But I got to find something called different. Oh, you are, let's say, you're light-skinned. I'm not light-skinned. I'm dark-skinned. You know what the whole history about that in black folks, okay? What, you from where?
Buffalo.
You know, Buffalo? Uh-oh, man, I'm from the South, and you big town northern. You know, it's like, no, I can't hang with you, okay? And I'll find something. You're Serbian, I'm a Croatian. You're a Hutu, I'm a Tutsi. You know, I know you saw the movie Rwanda.
Yes.
You know, it's like, how did they know each other apart? Okay, but they found a way. Because the mind will find a way to say, you are not me. It always does, because it is most afraid, the scariest thing to the human mind is that we're all the same. The scariest thing, okay? And if I'm going to find something within me, and if I go within me, I will have to pass into that part of me that is feeling so guilty because I think I am so bad inside. I have patients, man, to come in. Oh, take for instance, what was the woman's name? The Carpenter girl? Karen Carpenter, yeah. Beautiful voice, beautiful woman, right? And she was, you know, suffering from anorexia.
Right.
And she didn't think she was good looking. Okay, that's what her mind told her. Okay? The mind is a liar, and it won't tell you the truth. And it will tell you things about you that you are so inadequate. Karen Carpenter was not good enough. Even though she had money, she had, you know, all the things that we call success. All the symbols of it. Okay? Money, good looks, you know, all that stuff. You know, fame, all that fortune, all that. She had, deep within her was something called, I'm not good enough. Okay? We look at somebody like a Michael Jordan.
Don't we all have that?
Yes.
To varying degrees?
Yes, we all do.
Some of them come to the degree that they have to come and see you. And
Yeah.
lay on the couch or take some type of psychotropic drug or something.
Yeah.
But don't we all have
it's the central core of the human mind. The central core of the personality. Not who I am, though. The mask. Okay? The central core is I am not good enough. And I am afraid of seeing that. So that's why I got to create a you who is an enemy. But see, it's kind of like the Grand Dragon. I grew up in Alabama, okay? Good Klan country, all right? Now, I grew up in Jim Crow, Alabama, okay? Because I went to segregated schools and all that kind of stuff, okay? The Ku Klux Klan, or you can take any organization. We just use that as an example. The Grand Dragon, the Ku Klux Klan, got to have something called the N. The N word. I guess I can't say it on TV, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he got to have us. Because he doesn't like himself, he projects. That's one of the things that the mind does. What I don't like about me, I got to find somebody else to put it upon. Hitler didn't like himself, so he found some Jews and said, you know, you're dirty, rotten scums and you don't deserve to live. You know, the Hutus find the Tutsis. Oh, the Tutsis, they are not like us. The Serbians and the Croatians, the Muslims, the Jews and the Palestinians. I mean, you know, fill in the blank. Yeah. I gotta find somebody who is not like me, who I think is worse than me, because that's the worst part of me that I project or place onto you. And here's the paradox of it, Don. The you that I'm projecting upon, you are bringing me mind release. See, that's what true forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not about me saying you did me wrong, and I'm going to forgive you. True forgiveness is me realizing that it's all about me, and that you're bringing something to me that I don't want to see. See it in marriage every day, man. Marriage for most people is the toughest thing that they get into, okay? I mean, they can deal with their jobs and deal with, you know, all the things. But when they get home, it's like, ask any cop. Any cop would tell you that, the worst calls they answer are domestic calls. Because people go crazy, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are lawyers who don't even want to deal with divorces and stuff. They said, man, that's crazy stuff there, man. I ain't going to touch that. People just...
I'm one of them.
Right. Yeah, because people get crazy, man.
The rationality is no longer there.
Right. Like War of the Roses. Did you see that movie?
Right.
Yeah, you know how crazy they got.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a movie that really, I think, just showed the dynamics. But see, it's the conflict is really about, it's not out there. See, I can't see my face. Okay, I can't see my back. All right, I need a mirror. Okay, just to see my face. I can never see my face. So what I do, I join with somebody, and we call it falling in love. Ooh, baby, baby, Smokey Robinson. Ooh, baby, I just can't live without you, baby, baby. Okay, and it's nice for a while, and then ask anybody been married 5 years, they'll tell you, oh, man, good God, one of those things, okay? That's built in, man. It's built in because I got to have somebody who is a not me, an opposite. Now, the most basic opposite is the body, okay? Female, male, okay? Two opposites. Actually, they're complementary because we like to get, men and women love to get in the bedroom together, okay? Get us outside the bedroom, we have plenty of trouble. Okay, but that opposite of me, which is then turns into an opponent. All right, and an opponent then turns into my enemy. And there ain't no such thing as an enemy, man. An enemy is just simply carrying stuff I don't want to see. That's projection, stuff that I don't want to notice in my unconscious. Well, Carl Jung recognized this. He has a little concept called the shadow. That's where when we see the devil, I know this is a TV show that primarily addresses Christianity, so what I said might upset some Christians. But there's a thing that...
well, don't let that stop you.
Okay.
We upset a lot of Christians in this
Oh,
program.
yeah, well, the mail, I've been called all kinds of things. See, you got to get clear what the devil is. How could God have a devil to fight? Okay, that's one of the questions I ask myself. If God is all love, then what else is there?
Yes.
Okay? If God is omnipresent, then how can there be anything other than omnipresent or omnipotence? Okay? All, the word all. I ask my students to look at that word all. But the devil is just simply the mind saying, I don't like this about me. I now got to place it on something else. Because the mind always points you outward. And that's my enemy. But my enemy is bringing me a gift. It's a mirror. Hitler didn't know or doesn't realize that the Jews were a part of him. Matter of fact, I think he was trying to hide that he was part Jewish. I think his great-grandfather or something they suspect maybe have been Jewish. George Bush. George Bush doesn't like, a lot of things about himself. Like you're saying, we all got that part of us that we think is, icky. All right? George Bush got to have Saddam and Osama. Osama got to have George Bush. They are related. They are in a relationship, albeit a negative relationship because they throw bombs at each other, okay? But all Osama is to George Bush is something that George Bush doesn't want to see by himself. All that opposite is something within you that you don't want to see. It's like, how come somebody pushes your button so easily? Because you got something within you that they touch. Now, how come they're able to touch it? How come you react? See, forgiveness really is just realizing that there's nothing to react to. That person who you think done you wrong, again, I know my, I try to remember who taught me English at Morehouse. But anyway, however you want to say it, they done me wrong, or did me wrong, grammatically correct. That person who done you wrong, just like, here I go again, I guess, you might get some mail on this. The God that so many people take, that he's fighting the devil, and in the first 3 chapters of Genesis, if he thought Adam and Eve did him wrong, okay, that they disobeyed him, and he was hurt by it, give it up, God. You're vulnerable, and you're God, and you got to have a grievance? Okay, why? I don't understand it. Maybe some theologians can explain it to me. But I don't understand it. But as a psychologist, I can understand it. Okay? I can understand the need for people to have something called, I've been hurt, and you did me wrong, I got some pain. And that's where people usually come to my office. Mm-hmm. They got some pain and some complaint that somebody did them wrong, mom or dad or husband, whoever. Mm-hmm. Okay? And they are feeling that that pain is legitimate. And it's hard to get past them because they are identified. Their identity is really wrapped up in their pain and making somebody else wrong.
Well, what is the truth about the I? What is the, you indicated, for example, George Bush and Osama bin Laden have a lot in common.
Oh, yes.
In terms of how they depend upon each other to keep this inadequacy that each of them have and support it through their actions and reactions. But there's also a commonality of good in each one of them.
And they don't want to see that. Mm-hmm. See, George Bush he's got to have something called a good guy and a bad guy. That's the tree in the Garden of Eden. In the story in the Garden of Eden, you know, the tree represented the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, George Bush wants to say we're good guys, and Osama is the bad guy. Well, from Osama's standpoint of view, George Bush is the bad guy, and he's a good guy. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the truth? Okay, well, they're just both beliefs. Okay, coming out of the mind, because the mind is nothing but a belief machine. Mm-hmm. Okay, it just operates by thought. But what the truth is, I think, is what Jesus discovered. He discovered something called I, his spiritual identity, and the Father, which is the source of spirit, are one. There's no difference between the essence, which is what psychology is supposed to be about, the study of psyche, soul, essence, that who I am in truth is spirit. Mm-hmm. But I got a thinking machine up here, like old Descartes said, I think, therefore I am, okay? It tells me, no, I'm a black man. Now, once I take on that thing called black man, I'm going to look at white folks. Mm-hmm. And I got a whole history about white folks, okay, particularly in Alabama. Mm-hmm. Even you in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. You know, y'all didn't have those. I mean, y'all had your stuff in Buffalo. Right. It wasn't the promised land. I mean, you know, look what happened to Dr. King when he went to Chicago. Absolutely. You know. Anyway, the thing is that, you know, I got a whole history of experience because what I call in my book, the We God, okay, that group that I identify with, it tells me that I'm a part of this group, and then that tells me there's another group that's not a part of me, and that there's something called differences between us. Now, I'd be okay if I could stay like that. You know, you just black, I'm white, or you just 5'10", and I'm 5'9", whatever. But no, the mind then has to come in and judge. Well, how come you bigger than me? How come you got more than me? You know, Cain and Abel stuff, okay? Or how come there's something that ain't right here? And I got a right to, you know, to blame somebody. In other words, establish guilt. Yeah. Guilt and fear really are about the same. Old Sigmund Freud almost came to that idea, but he didn't quite get it. But anyway, so the thing is, if you get clear that what the mind is going to do is trick you. I remember my mommy said when I was growing up, the devil is cunning. He's deceptive. You know, you got to watch out for the devil. She was right.
Devil's the liar.
Yeah, it's a liar. That's right. But it ain't this guy with the pitchfork and the horns and, you know, all
Not
that
the horns
stuff.
that stick out.
Right.
They stick in.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the devil is just simply this thought that I and you are different and that you did something to me that I don't like and I think you are now guilty. That's the devil. Okay? And so once I set that up, then I can attack you. See, if I hold you to blame for something called I didn't get something, all right, now I can attack you because you're guilty. Guilt says attack, either physically or verbally, okay? Because I can't attack you unless I think you're guilty. Or you did something wrong. George Bush got, you know, Osama. He did something wrong, okay? The people who attacked Jesus, they said, you know, here was a man who was innocent. We called him innocent. And they said, no, he did something wrong. He was a blasphemer or something, they said. Okay? It has to make that judgment. Otherwise, the mind couldn't do anything. That's why the way out, and there are many ways out, but eventually you got to go in to get out.
How in the remaining minutes that we might have on the program, how do we get from the state of separation that we are in, where we do play on our differences, whatever differences that we see, national differences, religious differences, ethnic differences, gender differences, I don't know how many categories of differences that we can imagine. But how do we get to that point where Jesus has led us to ask us to be the peacemakers? What is the core? We only got a couple of minutes left, so what is the core in us that is in common with every other life form on this planet?
It's my true identity. It's the peace. The kingdom of heaven is within. I think that's what Jesus said, okay? Well, what does that mean? I have to go past all this psychological stuff, the personality. And how do I do that? I be still and know I am God. Now, what does that mean? Not Alan Carter. Alan Carter's too screwed up, okay? Alan Carter, gets mad. Somebody cuts me off on I-85, and it's like, okay? Alan Carter reacts, and he judges, and he does all that. But that's a personality. I have to be, if I really want to do it, I have to be aware. I have to have the starting point that only truth is true, and the only truth is that God is, or love is. That's the only
God
truth.
is love.
God is love, that's it. But my mind tells me that there's something else. Infinity is, in other words. All right? That which is infinite is. And what is infinite? Well, God, if you want to use that word. Right. Okay? So that means only God is. But my mind tells me something else. And I have to be aware of how my mind operates.
Well, we are made in the image of God.
Yes.
All of us, we're told. We all have that love in us. We need to shed the masks, recognize the love that is in each of us. Then we'll have peace on earth. Then we'll have the Garden of Eden returned back to us. I want to encourage you all to go to get what is this thing called I by Alan C. Carter.
Amazon.com.
Amazon.
Phoenix and Dragon Bookstore and so forth.
Phoenix and Dragon Bookstore. And you got Dr. Carter's email. Get in contact with him. I want to thank you all for sharing with us as we went into this inward journey of this thing called I, and what we found is love. That is the answer. So as we close, we want you, Alan and I, want you to seek peace, find peace, and most of all, be peace.
How long will